Let's shift gears now to some big news. So earlier this week, we actually talked about it on Overtime. Let me give it a plug for Overtime. Head to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. JD and I actually recorded on Monday night. We typically don't record on Monday night, but we did this week. And we actually did a deep dive into the feud between Bret Hart and Owen Hart. But during that show, we actually started off with a little bit of news, and we were talking about Tony Khan hitting Twitter and teasing some big announcements are imminent, the biggest in the history of the company, or the most important in the history of the company. Well, he had a big announcement today. He said All In 2025 is moving from London to Arlington, Texas. AEW announced that All In 2025 will take place at Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas, instead of Wembley Stadium in London. The decision comes, look, hitting the same stadium 3 years in a row, you're likely to see a major decline. I don't want anybody here to think that doing 55,000 in Wembley is a failure. It's not. It's still very freaking good. But they did 80 last year. They're about 55 this year. Next year, you're probably looking at another drop. It makes sense to do it in a different location. I completely get that. And they're bringing it to the U.S. Their ticket sales have not been great in the U.S. to be honest. I was thinking maybe if they were going to do it outside of London, they might go to another European city or something like that. But no, they're bringing it to Texas. They happen to kind of be a little bit of a big deal in Texas. They've been doing very well in Arlington, but we're talking like thousand tickets here and there. But you know what? It's ballsy. I think I like it. It's kind of an exciting time in the company.
They'll sell out this show. I know, like, they're not as hot as they were. They're a little cold right now. They got a year to heat up, but in reality, it's the first AEW stadium show, and they have a loyal fan base who does like to travel if given the opportunity and if motivated. So I think what this is going to do is it's going to challenge the fan base, and they're going to rally to it, and you'll get 55,000 in that stadium for it. So I mean, like, yeah, they're cold, but I mean, they'll put 55 in the stadium.
They'll go balls to the wall. They'll do everything they can to try to fill up that stadium. It's going to be curious to see how much they set it up for, because that's a baseball stadium. That's not where the Cowboys play. It's where the Texas Rangers play, and they could probably set it up for 25 and it look really good.
I don't think they're going to. I think they'll probably release 30 would be my guess on that first 30. Day, and then they'll try to go from there. They'll sell it out. I'm telling you this right now. I'm staking my claim. The AEW fan base will rally. And that's part of the problem too, is this fan base, when they have something to rally around, they do. And the problem with having 12 pay-per-views, it's great for your pay-per-view sales. It's harder on your ticket sales because the pay-per-views aren't destination events anymore. Right? Like having All In Wembley makes All Out in Chicago not as cool. It just is. Like, it's just not as cool. Like, I forgot I have tickets and I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm going. It's tradition. But I mean, it's not exciting to go anymore. So but giving them a reason to be excited about something, and who knows what the main event's going to be? Who knows what the world's going to look like a year?
Yeah. We talked about it earlier this year when we were just kind of like, we did some fantasy booking with Muse earlier this year. We talked about Will Ospreay's journey, and Muse on this show said that no, you don't put him in the main event of Wembley this year. What you do is you build a 1-year story arc, and then he gets the main event next year. Does that throw a little bit of cold water on that storyline that Tony Khan probably wasn't going to go with anyway, but that we really liked?
Yeah, and I said running Wembley 3 years in a row is really risky.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, but who knows? Maybe you don't do that show in Wembley. Maybe you go back and do a show at the O2 or like at the Craven Cottage or whatever later in the year.
They did say that they're going back to London in 2026. I don't know that he said that he's going back to Wembley in 2026. Somebody might be able to correct me on that, but he did say London in 2026 for All In.
I think holding off on making Will the champion another 2 years might be a mistake. But I mean, they can go and do a show there. I guess you don't need to crown Will's first time in London. It's fine. Like, whatever.
But I mean, in hindsight, don't you think that maybe they should have just crowned him this year at Wembley?
No. No, I don't, because Swerve and Hangman is a really good program, and I think that to sell more
Swerve and Hangman's going to Chicago.
I'm a Chicago guy. Swerve and Danielson, I think, is a really good program. It's the hottest thing in the company right now. Like, in a company that's not drawing a lot, let's be honest, but this is a match that has interest. I think that you want 50,000 people doing yes, yes, yes when Bryan Danielson wins this match. I think that was the match to go with. Like, you talk to You talk to some people in the know, Will's not there yet.
I disagree with them. I think he is there, but I happen to just really like him.
I love him too, but I mean,
I think he's fantastic.
If you talk to people who know like the minute by minutes, Will isn't there yet as far as like top draws in the company. I think this match with MJF, which is the former world champion, does a lot to help cement him. Right. I think in a year you're good. I think you could put Will in the main event in Texas. Right. I don't think that's crazy.
Yeah, no, I think you could do that. I think All In now is like their biggest show of the year every year now. It's like their destination event. And so just because it's not in London doesn't mean you can't put him in the main event of the show. I think it would have been cooler if he was doing it in the main event of Wembley. But if you do it in the main event of Wembley next year, you're probably looking at,
20,
maybe 30.
Maybe 30 if you push. Yeah. Which is not a bad. Anytime you get 30,000 people, that's a good thing. But it's still 50,000 people less.
Well, and you're probably losing your ass on travel fees and rental fees and all that stuff.
I'm of the idea that if All In becomes their version of WrestleMania, where you can hit stadiums with this, I think it's bold. I think they're going to try really hard on this one, and if they can make this their show, their WrestleMania, like that's cool. I think they should plan for the main event right now.
Yeah.
Have in mind what you want for the main event right now and book a year backwards. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Get yourself there. Start building to that show right now. Right. And I think in some ways, maybe they have been with Danielson's journey and stuff like that and swerves. But I mean, like, I don't think so. I mean, again, wrestling is a living, breathing organism as far as like a show goes. It's not like a book. It's not like TV show. Like, things can change. But I think you need, if you want Will to be the champion, say, okay, in the main event of this show, we want Will versus X. How do we get there?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. And I think what they should do is they should call up John Muse. Be like, hey, you were on the Mike and JD show, and you said that we should wait till 2025 to crown Will. Okay, now how do we do it? And then John will tell them how to do it.
I agree with that.
I think that's the smart play. But if you're Tony Khan.
But if you're Tony Khan, you hire R.D. Evans instead, who's going to do some more Trash by Elegance stuff and the International Wrestling Provisional Stupid Bullshit Championship. I can't stand that guy's work. Like him and Jimmy Jacobs and Pat Buck and all these guys. God, they could just flush them all down the toilet.
It's so funny how Jacobs and Evans left TNA, and it quickly came out that all the shitty stuff was like their idea. Like
we knew it.
Look, guys, yeah.
We talked about it on our show for years, yeah.
And now TNA like their ratings are never going to go up just because they're on Access, but their ticket sales are fucking great. So it's pretty funny. So he's been teasing a big announcement, one of the most important announcements in AEW history. King of the North brings up a good thing here. Earlier today, it was reported that it was the Sporting News Australia. Which was then quote tweeted and confirmed by Sean Rossap. Thank you, Sean. That the AEW is looking at taking a pay-per-view to Australia. I don't think that's one of the most important announcements, but that appears to be something that they're interested in. Australian governments, like local governments, are actually paying wrestling companies to bring shows there. So that's smart. Like they paid TNA to go to fucking bumblefuck Wagga Wagga, Australia. Yeah.
Wagga Wagga sounds silly, but it's actually like a real, like decently sized, like civilized city in Australia. Yeah. It just has an Aboriginal name.
Yeah, but a big things coming to Australia. Maybe AEW bringing a show there. But cool. What are we thinking that this most important announcement imminently happening is? What are we thinking?
It's got to be the TV deal.
yeah, it's got to be.
Hopefully, it's signed because Zaslav, he's got to be a dead man walking. He's got to be.
People think that his job's safe. Did you read the Observer last week?
I did not read it last week.
He quoted one of the entertainment trade journals,
really,
and said that it's people that are saying that his job is in danger. They don't really understand the dynamic of that company, and that his job's probably pretty safe.
Crazy to me.
Yeah,
good for Tony.
Yeah, absolutely. Hold on, Superman Bass Fisher. I'll get to you in just a second. I appreciate you for dropping a super chat. So yeah, it's gotta have it has to be that television deal. Like it has to happen at any point now. And BJ Bethel was on Twitter earlier, and he did a poll. He said, "What do you think that their annual rights fee is going to be?" And he put 120, and then he did like 130, and then he did like 150 to 170, and he said 180 to 200. I voted 150 to 170. What say you?
180.
You're going above 180. 180 or above.
I think it's about 180.
And then at that point, I mean, that essentially like sets them up for the next decade, basically, to where they can now like be comfortable. And it doesn't matter if they get the 180 million a year. The fact that they're not getting $1 billion a year like WWE, people are going to think they're a failure no matter what. You know what I mean? So they're going to move those goalposts by, oh, well, they failed. And that's not the case. They're actually going to be a sustainable company that's profiting and a hugely successful company at that point.
Yeah. I mean, then the job is done. You introduced a challenger brand that's going to last and will outlast WCW. You've already outlasted the Nitro era. Like, mission, you want to say mission accomplished, but it's got to be okay. Like, you can not ease off the brake, but now you can like not worry about fighting to survive.
Right. Now you can breathe a little bit. Yeah, but don't say mission accomplished. I don't want you to George Bush yourself. All right. Superman Bass Fisher has a great comment here. He said they should go somewhere WWE hasn't been. Go to Rio. I kind of like the idea of trying to work cities that WWE really doesn't go to very often, to try to carve out their own, sites and territories.
Well, I think WWE has been to Rio. Isn't that where JBL or Chris Jericho got in trouble? Something like that. Like someone got
so they've done house shows there, but I don't think they've ever done a pay-per-view there. Although Pat Patterson did win the Intercontinental title there in a tournament in 1979, a very legitimate one.
As did Buddy Rogers in 1963. People forget about that. So I have this crazy theory with Mike. I think that they're running a show in Champaign, Illinois next week. Nitro. Jesus. They're running Dynamite in Champaign, University of Illinois, about 3 hours from me. I forgot. Champaign is a very small market. Like I said, it's about 3.5 hours from Chicago proper. In theory, if you had a Zane Bresloff out there really running the market and really trying to sell tickets, you could do what you're talking about, but they don't.
No,
they just don't.
So AEW Dynamite and Rampage I sent this to our group chat earlier. On Wednesday, August 28th, they currently have 1,000 tickets out, 1,005 tickets. The current setup is for 1,830 tickets. So we're still 2 weeks out. They could sell those, but that's gonna be tough. Like that's almost like half that they have left to go. 13 days until the show. In 2019, they were in that same venue, in December 4, 2019, and they sold 4,100 tickets
in Champaign.
Yeah.
In Central Illinois. Like that's impressive. And so that's the same arena we have the state wrestling tournament at. And the fact that the IHSA State Wrestling Tournament is going to outdraw Dynamite is mind-boggling to me. But as is the reality we're living in, I think that if you're going to run, I don't think running smaller markets is a bad idea. I think if you're going to do that, you've got to have your street team, man. You got to be pounding the pavement to get asses in those seats. I just don't think they have that guy, that Zane Bresloff, who can make that work, and that's disappointing. Assembly Hall is a cool place too. So.
Yeah, no, they definitely. You know where they could sell a lot of tickets?
Where's that?
Honolulu, Hawaii. I guarantee you. And me and my boys here on the base, we'll do a military campaign. We'll get 8,000 in the Blaisdell Arena in downtown Honolulu. Let's do it.
I imagine it costs a fortune to run a show in Hawaii.
Oh, it does. That's why when Bellator came, they would do 2 shows. They would run back-to-back nights because they're like, look, if we're going and we're taking our entire production team, we're gonna get our money's worth. So,
do the whole thing. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, they absolutely would. But yeah, lots of things coming down the pike for AEW.